audio clear and is the presentation already visible? Can you give me a thumbs up or heart reaction, please? All right, thank you. So for those who haven't seen yet the copies of the discussion materials, I have already uploaded it in our G Drive, no? So you can secure it there. If ever we have or we will resume face-to-face classes in the upcoming weeks, again, if there would be discussion materials, it is your discretion if you want to print it out, no? So kung gusto niyo na soft copy lang, walang problema. Basta at least, no, you have the discussion material there. So kayo na po bahala if you want to print it or not. So walang problema. Now, for today's topic, we will focus on risk management and safety in the histopath laboratory. So, almost the same with other sections, may ibang pinagkaiba lang because the specimen that we are handling is not just limited to body fluids, no? In the histopath laboratory, we also handle different organs kasi those are what we're going to use later on as our sample, and the output will be tissues on top of the slides. So I will just be pausing from time to time just in case other students will enter pa. And if you get disconnected, don't forget you can return to the Zoom meeting room. I will record the discussion, no, so that I can also keep track of the students naman. So kung nawala, okay lang, you can return. And at the end of the discussion, I will also take your attendance. All right, so let's start. Okay. So I have a message here. It's not available for download. Sige, wait lang ha. I will check. Ayan, you can try to access again. So just in case you will jot down notes or take down notes, no, later on, so that we will not dwell too much on each slide, I will upload the recorded discussion also later within the day after I'm done, no, with all my classes. All right, so in histopathology laboratory, we are analyzing here and interpreting the shapes, sizes, and architectural patterns of each cell and tissue. Kasi later on, those different shapes, sizes, and architectural patterns will give us an idea, of the underlying issue on why the patient is experiencing an illness. Now, technically, we are just there to prepare, we prepare, we quality assess the outputs that we will do in histopath, but later on, the pathologist will be the one to diagnose the disease. But then again, in general, histopathology, we are analyzing here the tissues that we prepared, onto the slides. Then pag tinignan ng pathologist doon, ang titignan niya yung different characteristics and structural patterns that they will see under the microscope. Now, the activities in histopath laboratory are the same. They are differentiated or classified into three. Merong pre-analytical, analytical, and post-analytical. But again, naiiba kasi yung procedure dito. Kaya the pre-analytical is not just limited to you securing the sample, no? So in pre-analytical, ang activities dito, it includes sample collection, transport also, yung transport ng specimen from the ward or from the patient up to the laboratory. And dito, yung tissue processing per se, pre-analytical pa din yon. Kasi wala ka pa nung pinaka-output na babasahin, no? So just to get things straight, pre-analytical pa din yung preparation natin of the tissue sample. Paano ba siya pine-prepare? Yung starting from labeling, yung nag-a-accession tayo. So the moment that you label your tissue sample up to fixation na pinrocess natin, no? If-fix natin yan with fixing agent, formalin, i-clear, no? Dehydrate. So madaming steps yung processing na yon that we will go over from midterms to finals. But for now, it is safe enough for us to understand na under pa rin pala ng pre-analytical yon kasi preparation pa din yan ng tissue sample. So again, in pre-analytical, you have your sample collection, yung transport ng sample na yon from patient or ward up to the laboratory. Pag nakuha natin sa laboratory, hindi pa yun analytical. Pre-analytical pa yan because we're going to process the tissue. Now, after we're done processing the tissue sample, always remember that the output that the pathologist will read will be tissues na naka-place on top of the slide, no? Dapat meron ng thin tissue sample on top of the slide na we properly prepared. And then, kapag babasahin na po ng pathologist yon, doon pa lang po siya magiging analytical. So in histopath laboratory, the analytical phase will start in slide reading, no? Slide reading along with relevant data and preparation of the report. So yung pagpa-prepare ng report, analytical pa din. But when we're going to give out the report already, that's the start ng post-analytical phase in histopath lab. So, going back, pre-analytical, sample collection, transport of the sample from its origin, may it be the patient, the ward, up to the laboratory. Pre-analytical pa din when we're going to process the tissue samples, no? From labeling, accessioning, fixation. So, all the steps ng preparation of a tissue sample, pre-analytical. And then the time that the analytical phase will start will be the slide reading, no? Slide reading specifically by the pathologist. And then, preparation of report. So, isusulat na, i-jot down kung ano yung mga makikita doon sa slide na ni-read ng pathologist. Analytical pa din yon. But after it has been consolidated and then the report will be given to different wards, post-analytical activity na yon in histopath. Now, aside from that, post-analytical, then if we want to store the data, no, store the records in histopath lab, storing also of the tissue blocks. Now, in histopath, they safe keep what we call a tissue block, no? So later on, we will know also what a tissue block is. Pero kasi itong tissue block, nandito pa yung original na tissue na pinrocess natin. If the doctor or pathologist wants to see another slide sample, technically wala ka nang maha-harvest na bagong organ, di ba? Kung yun yung kinuha from the patient, example, the left kidney, do you think makakakuha pa ng isa pang left kidney? Di ba? Wala na. So, if the pathologist would like to see another preparation of sample, so saan siya kaya pwedeng makakuha ng repeat slide or tissue sample kung may remaining pang tissue block? So, yung tissue block, sine-safekeep yan usually from 5 to 10 years. Yung safekeeping or storage niyan, pasok pa po sa post-analytical. So reporting, storage of tissue blocks, or even storage of the results mismo, no? Yung printed or soft copy of the results. Disposal also, no? Disposal, cleaning is also part of the post-analytical phase. Now, when we talk about risk management, basically, no, we want to ensure and maintain that everyone inside the laboratory is healthy and safe. Hindi lang po yung environment mo inside the laboratory, hindi lang yung owner ng laboratory, hindi lang din yung mga equipments, no, or yung patients, yung safe, but also the one executing the analysis, pati kayo, no, pati ang mga medtech and the employee. So overall safety yung tinitingnan natin dito. And the first step to manage those risks is to identify all hazards, no? Kasi yung risk, yan lang naman yung possibility of the hazard giving danger. So dapat alam natin kung ano yung mga hazard na present in the laboratory. It can be electrical, can be chemical, no? Fire hazard, biohazard, and etc. So it's up to us to learn and know all the hazards present so that we can check the appropriate risk linked to those hazards. And one good practice is to keep an inventory of all the chemical reagents so that we may know which chemicals are combustible, flammable, and etc. No? We will dive more to it later on as we proceed with the discussion. Now, let's differentiate first a hazard and a risk, no? Let's settle the confusion. When we talk about hazard, these are the things that can cause harm, no? Kung may bato dyan, kung merong spill dyan, if there are cables, there are wires, hazard yon. Now, what is a risk? Ito na yung possibility, no? Yung potential or possibility of that hazard to cause damage to an area, a person, or any living thing. Example, nandyan nga itong bato, no? Merong mga falling debris dyan. So, if you leave it alone, wala naman niyang hazard sa isang tao or wala naman niyang risk, no? Wala siyang harm. If you leave it alone there, wala naman niyang harm sa isang organism or a human being. So what will be the possibility that it can cause a harm? Pag nagtayo ka ng bahay, no? Sa gilid niyan. Now, it is safe for us to say that the formula of a risk is hazard plus exposure. Kasi yung hazard, if you leave it alone, again, no, wala naman yung mangyayari dun sa mga nakapaligid. Pero kapag meron ka ng ginawa, nilapit, or mali yung pag-handle mo, no, the potential of it causing harm becomes higher. Yun na po yung risk na tinatawag. Now, other examples. O here, no, merong shark dun sa area. If you leave it alone, no, it is its natural habitat. If you leave it alone in the ocean, wala naman niyang harm na makukos dun sa tao. So hazard, merong tubig, nandyan yung pating, o hazard lang yan. But what is the risk there? Kapag lumangoy ka kasama nung pating, no? So that is the difference between a hazard and a risk. So another example, if you encounter this in the laboratory, there are spills there. So there are spills, hazard yung spills na yan. So ano yung likelihood ng hazard to cause harm to the person kapag dinaanan mo, no? So to avoid that risk, what will you do? You clean that properly so you can avoid the risk of causing harm to a person or even to you. So hazard versus risk. So hazard, anything that can cause harm, no? So paano ko malalaman kung makaka-cause ng harm yon? Tignan natin yung risk, no? What is the possibility, the potential or likelihood that that hazard can cause harm to the employees or a person inside the laboratory? Now, when we talk about security, no, proper security of the laboratory staff, chemicals, and valuable equipment is mandatory. Overall security kasi this involves that everyone is safe. May it be the equipments, may it be the staff, may it be the reagents, no? So, how can we be sure na secured yung mga yon? Unang-una, dapat walang papasok na hindi naman dapat nandyan. So, unauthorized or unwanted persons, no entry dapat, no? Restricted sila from the laboratory. That is why in every area or section in the laboratory, meron kayong makikita din ng mga signages na ganito. Only the personnel that are on duty on that area, sila lang po dapat yung makakapasok. Kasi sila yung nakakaalam ng mga materials, nasaan yung mga ito, nasaan yung mga yan. Sila ang nakakaalam ilan yung inventory nito, no? So the moment that anyone will enter freely inside the laboratory or the histopath section at hindi naman sila talaga authorized doon, pag nagkaroon ng breakages, nagkaroon ng missing materials, no, mahirap i-track kung sino yung mga yon. So, always remember that unauthorized persons, they should not enter, no, in the section. Now, for the fire hazards, there should be presence of fire extinguishers, smoke alarm, and also fire blankets, no? Not just in the histopath section, but in all sections inside the laboratory. Now, previously, the procedure in using the fire extinguishers are just pass, no? Yung pull the safety pin daw, aim at the base, no? At the bottom, and stand 6 to 8 feet away. Squeeze natin yung nozzle, then you can sweep the wire or the hose, no? Sweep the hose from side to side. Now, yung pass na yun, it was not enough before, kaya minodify nila, nilagyan pa ng T. So the current way in using your fire extinguishers is abbreviated as TPAS. Bakit? Kasi tinatry nilang i-pull yung safety pin, di nila matanggal. Yun pala, kailangan mo nang tanggalin yung seal or i-break yung pinaka-lock. So you need to twist it first. So twist the pin first and then before you can proceed with the next procedure. So very essential that you know how to operate even if you haven't used one yet. If you know this acronym, no, in cases of emergency that you need to operate one, very easy to follow lang, no? For 5 letters lang, TPAS. Now, how about chemical hazards? Now, the chemical hazards usually are enclosed in fireproof metal cabinets. Dapat fireproof kasi in histopath laboratory, marami tayong gagamitin na flammable, combustible, toxic chemicals in the laboratory. That is why those cabinets can also be categorized into the following. Now, this one is according to CISBEL. Kinolor-coded nila yung mga fireproof metal cabinets nila. If you see that it is yellow, it means that it is flammable. Pag flammable, ibig sabihin yung flash point niya, yung flash point of that chemical is below 37.8 degrees Celsius. So what do you mean by a flash point ba? Remember that a flash point is the lowest. So pinakamababang temperature at which yung liquid vapor is capable in igniting kapag may presence of an ignition source. So example, yung vapor nung liquid na flammable is exposed to ignition source na fire. So if the temperature is below 37.8, hindi siya below or equal ha. So, ibig sabihin, starting at 37.7, no? 37.7 pababa. So, kung yun yung temperature, even at room temperature, pag may presence ng vapor of that liquid, tapos meron kang ignition source na fire, it is capable to ignite, no? Magliliyab. Or worse, pwede ding sumabog pag sobrang dami. So, that is the difference of a flammable chemical from a combustible chemical. Pag combustible, red yung kulay ng kanilang metal cabinet, and combustible has a flash point of greater than or equal to 37.8 degrees Celsius. Okay? So, flammable and combustible, pareho yan na yung vapor niya can ignite when there is a presence of an ignition source, no? May it be a flame or even just heat, no? But the difference is the temperature of their flash points. Mas mababa, mas malamig dito sa flammable, and combustible naman, mas mataas, mas mainit na temperature. So 37.8 below or less than 37.8 flammable, then greater than or equal to 37.8 combustible. Now, corrosive naman pagka blue yung cabinet. When you say corrosive, these are chemicals that have irreversible, no? Di mababalik, irreversible damage to the tissue or the cell. Kaya wag kakalimutan din yung mga itsura, no, ng kanilang mga symbols. Kaya meron diyang mga uka, no, pagka pumatak sa kamay kasi irreversible na yung damage. Kabaliktaran nito yung irritants. Pag irritants, they cause reversible naman, no? Reversible damage to the tissue or the cell. But for now, corrosive kapag blue daw yung metal cabinet. Then other toxic chemicals, kapag white yung kulay, green naman for pesticides, and for polyethylene corrosives, specific polyethylene corrosives, dito po sa color blue natin. Now, other precautions, never do suction by mouth. It's somewhat common sense, no? But mind you, it happens before. This is a common practice in ancient medical technologies, no? That they are suctioning by mouth. But remember, universal precaution that all samples, no? Treat all samples as infectious. We may never know what kind of infection lies in those sample. Even before, pag bumili kayo ng WBC pipette or RBC pipette, meron nakasama dyan na parang kulay red na designated for mouth pipetting, for suction talaga nila, no? But again, it's not a practice now anymore. Ako kasi first hand, I saw my senior medtechs before doing that, no? Nag-imagine, nagma-mouth pipette for RBC pipette, saktong-sakto yung blood sa 5 kasi nga, pinapractice nila yung before. But take note, hindi na po yan ginagawa ngayon. Next, always put alkali or acid in water. So always remember na lang, no? Isusulat nyo lagi A over W, which means that the water should be placed first dun sa container and then saka natin slowly i-add, no, drop by drop lang on the water placed inside the beaker or your vessel. Kasi what will happen kung kabaliktaran, kung acid muna and then magsasplash ka naman ng water na generally mas malamig, no? Mas mainit yung dun sa acid, it may boil very rigorously or violently kapag sinali natin ang baliktad. So, A over W, laging water yung nauuna sa container, then slowly add drop by drop yung alkali or acid. So, just in case you need to dilute, no? Especially in decalcification. Pag nagpunta tayo sa decalcification, gumagamit tayo ng mga acids dyan. 10%, yung iba 3%. So if we want to dilute, ang meron ka ay concentrated. Remember, pag magda-dilute, una muna yung water, tsaka natin ihahalo yung acid. Now, just in case there would be emergency or accidental exposures to sensitive areas such as the eyes, no? Dapat meron ding immediate area for washing. May eye wash station and shower area. Never neutralize acid, no, with bases or alkali and vice versa. So, wash lang din muna and then first aid immediately. Wear your PPEs appropriate with when you're dealing with chemicals also. Now, just to share in the histopath laboratory, especially when you are grossing, no, kapag nag-gross tayo, nag-check pa lang ng pinaka samples natin. Kasi in histopath, usually our samples come from surgeries or they come from autopsies, no? So parang butchers tayo in a sense kasi meron tayong mga sinaslice, may kinakat, no? So one department also na very useful yung histopath is forensic laboratory wherein ganito yung usual na suot, no? Merong bouffant cap. This bouffant cap is a hair cap lang din, no? May face shield kasi kapag may splashes ng body fluids or yung iba goggles, pero para protected din yung buong face, wala talagang magsasplash na blood or tissue juices, nagpo-face shield. Or and also, meron silang face mask, the Tivex suit. Yung Tivex suit kasi, this is a known brand, no? In other countries. Pero yung Tivex brand din siya, but generally, it's a kind of one-piece na PPE na worn after yung pinaka-scrub suit. So, yung iba lab gown ang sinusuot compared sa Tivex suit. Then, papatungan pa ulit yon, no? Kasi nga, para tayong butchers, hindi sapat yung face shield kasi hindi lang naman sa mukha magsasplash yung body fluid or the blood sample. Kaya naglalagay pa ng plastic apron on top of it na easily disposable din. The gloves, magkaiba. Meron kasing external gloves na gamit, of course, because when we are cutting, ang pinaka-exposed dun sa tissue juices kamay natin, no? Or the blood sample. Now, yung sa dominant hand, ang nakalagay yung usual rubber gloves na ginagamit natin. But on the non-dominant hand, ang ginagamit itong Kevlar glove. Yung Kevlar glove, nakikita niyan parang yung sa mga nag welding, yung medyo makapal siya, no, yung material niya. Yung material niya made up of synthetic fibers, no, synthetic fibers because the reason why it's thicker than the normal na rubber gloves kasi again, we are cutting, we are slicing, very sharp yung mga gamit nating scalpel, knife, kasi hindi lang naman muscles or organs yung kinakat. There are times na even bone, no, yung nagiging sample. So, nag-range yung pangkat natin from as little as a scalpel, from as big as a saw, no? Depende na lang kung ano yung kailangan dun sa pinaka-sample for histopath laboratory. That's why dapat protected yung isang pamigil mo sa non-dominant hand, 'di ba? Pag nagsislice ka or nagcho-chop ka, 'di ba? Ang pinakamihawak ng knife yung dominant, 'di ba? So yung dominant hand para hindi maglulus yung grip mo, nandun lang ang suot mo lang sa dominant hand mo yung rubber or yung usual nating gloves. Then yung non-dominant hand naman, since siya yung ma-expose dun sa kinakat ng isang hand to prevent cuts, abrasions, or even heat, no, that will be exposed, Kevlar glove yung ginagamit. And then, even up to the shoes pinoprotect, no, merong shoe covers kasi kapag talagang bloody or filled with tissue juices yung ating ginugross, tumatalsik hanggang paa. So, this is the usual PPE that you will encounter once you see your pathologist or staff later on in internship pag nag-gross sila. So when we say grossing kasi, nandun pa yung macroscopic examination. So anong itsura nung pinaka-organ before i-process, and then Syempre, kukuha lang tayo ng mga sample na kasya dun sa ating tissue cassette. Kaya ikakat po siya into pieces. Now, how about the infective or the biologic hazard? So ito, usual, no? Since we're handling organs filled with tissue juices, blood, no? Ang paalala lang naman lagi, no? Universal precaution that you need to treat everything as infectious. According to the reference kasi naging very specific siya with the HIV status. But then again, hindi lang din naman ito, no? Yung dapat maging aware or wary tayo. Different microorganisms can be present in the samples that we are analyzing, and we don't know what lies there. So always treat everything as infectious. So how do we combat this? You wear your personal protective equipment properly, yung mga pinakita kanina, no? Yung enumerate natin. Also, take precaution with sharp objects, no? 25% ng cases that a staff or employee in the laboratory is being infected is because of punctures. Specifically, nagre-recap kasi ng needles. Now, very important, hindi lang sa nagsusungit or nagiging strict kami kapag sinasabing pag nag-recap, one hand, no? One hand, wag hahawakan yung takip, wag isi-secure or ilalak yung takip using the other hand, no? Pag fish out, dapat sa hard surface kasi it's for your protection also, no? Yung recapping of the needles, 25% is 25% of the reason why nagkakaroon ng needle prick. What else? Inadequate yung disposal ng needles. Hindi sa puncture-proof container nilalagay, tinatapon kasama ng syringe, no? Isang buhat, tinatapon sa kung saan na plastic container. So, hindi dapat ganon. Always yung mga sharp sa puncture-proof container. And nai-infect din usually pag nagda-transfer ng fluid from one container to the other. Kaya talagang very important yung PPEs na sufficient kasi you may never know where that liquid will splash, no? It can splash in any part of the body, the neck, no? Yan yung mga na mimislok no? Pati yung neck and other areas na walang cover ng PPE. So aside from that, proper discarding also of contaminated waste and clean the area before and after. Kasi pagdating, yes, it might look clean visibly, but we do not know microscopically. Kaya it's very safe to clean it again and sanitize, disinfect the area properly. Now, speaking of laboratory waste disposal, proper waste disposal, we generally categorize it as the following. It can be a general waste or a biohazardous waste. Now, yung mga biohazards natin, it can be linked with chemicals, biological, and radioactive waste. Now, this is purely from your day or histopath by day, yung aking reference for histopathology na laboratory safety. So we will follow this for our histopath lab, no? General waste, ito naman, no, we all know already na black, basta hindi hazardous, hindi po soiled with anything infectious, sa black po natin ilalagay. Ang container can be a plastic bag, then tsaka nakalagay dun sa pinaka-bin, no? Yung plastic na bin, yung malaki. And then later on, yung disposal niyan up to the local authority for routine disposal. For yellow, ang tatandaan lang, anything toxic, no? Biohazard. Dapat may symbol din ng biohazard doon sa pinaka-container. So plastic bag muna, tapos yung plastic bag na yon nakalagay doon sa pinaka-plastic na bin. Yung nakikita nyo in the laboratory. Kasi hindi naman siya diretsyo na bin lang dapat. Dapat may plastic pa din muna. Then, any body fluid no? Maybe a body fluid, maybe laboratory material, basta it is laced or contaminated with something that is already categorized as toxic, yellow bag po tayo. Then for disposal, disinfection and incineration dapat no sinusunog. Now how about the red one? Now yung red one, it depends on the reference, but the usual or the common thing that they have is that anything that is soiled with blood, no? Soiled with blood. Pwedeng cotton, linen bed. Ma'am, pareho lang sila nitong yellow kasi we categorize it as infectious eh. So, tama naman. But ang pinagkaiba nila, yung container ng yellow, dito plastic bag lang. But in a red container, automatic, meron ng disinfectant na kasama. Other references will also tell you that a red container is for anatomical. So, mga organs, no? Anatomical disposal. Meron din kayong makikita na red na puncture-proof naman, no? Red na puncture-proof. Dito ko lang sinulat ha, but it's not under disposal. So, red na puncture-proof. Ibig sabihin, this is for sharps. Red, puncture-proof, sharps. And take note, kapag red, tas ginamit mo sa sharps container, hazardous yon. Hazardous or toxic. Okay? So, dapat meron ding label with the biohazard symbol. So, ulitin ko, our red container, it differs from a yellow one because the container already has a disinfectant. Pero pareho din naman, no, na yung tinatapon dito, pwedeng yung mga cotton, mga materials that are soiled with blood. Kaya pula. Others, pwede rin po yung mga catheter, but remember, dapat po meron ding blood, no? Then in other references, pwede rin yung anatomical na waste like organs. And pag ginamit siya in a puncture-proof container, ito yung mga hazardous na sharps, hazardous or toxic sharps. Kasi kapag non-hazardous, example, mga pharmaceutical na products, mga vials, mga empty na medicine containers, blue po yung ginagamit nilang color. So blue for sharp materials, but take note, non-hazardous. And in other references, mga pharmaceuticals. Okay, kaya puncture-proof din yan and hard plastic, leak-proof. But again, non-hazardous, pharmaceuticals sa blue. Pagka naman hazardous, toxic, tapos sharps, red yung kulay ng puncture-proof container. In others, like what we do in the laboratory, no, hindi na color-coded. Pwede din yun, provided na, again, it's puncture-proof, leak-proof, and meron pong print na biohazard symbol. Now, speaking of disinfectants, these are the different disinfectants that you can encounter in the laboratory. Now, first, we have the very famous, yung chlorine-based, yung mga bleach solution, no? Sodium hypochlorite solution or the NaOCl. Pag nakita yung NaOCl, sodium hypochlorite. Now, this is broad spectrum. Ibig sabihin, madami siyang pwedeng ma-disinfect. It can act against different organisms. And also remember that the percentage that we usually use in the laboratory is not the pure one, no? Hindi yung pag bumili ka ng bleach, yun yung isasaboy mo sa table, hindi po ganon, no? Ano naman yan, hazardous naman yan or toxic to the user kasi sobrang concentrated, maapektuhan na yung lungs. So, dapat 10% lang. So, idadilute natin ng 10% and make sure na if you're going to prepare the 10% solution, it should be made fresh every day. Why? Kasi yung sodium hypochlorite solution, again, it generates chlorine eh. And chlorine is corrosive. Kapag iniwan mo siya in longer periods in a container, no? And sa inyo din, it is highly corrosive kung matagal may expose, lalo na kung walang PPE. Now, your 10% bleach solution, since it's corrosive, it is not advisable to place it in metal containers. So, should not be placed, i-X ko na lang ha, not be placed in metal containers. So, yan plastic or glass pwede. Next, we have iodophores. Iodophores naman po natin, ito yung mga iodine solutions, no? Iodophore disinfectant. Povidone iodine, yung betadine, if yun yung mas familiar kayo, we can also use that kung walang chlorine solution. Then, make sure that it is diluted in aqueous solution, pwedeng 0.5 up to 10% of concentration. For the quacks, no, or the quaternary ammonium compounds, this can also be used as a disinfectant kasi it acts against various bacteria. But it is usually more potent in cleaning laboratory floors, no? Saan ginagamit usually sa laboratory floors. And hindi siya kasi usual ginagamit because it's expensive, no? As compared to the chlorine base, readily available and then cheaper than your quaternary ammonium compounds. Next, we have the phenolics. Ang phenolics, derivatives of phenol, mas kilala nyo to bilang si Lysol, no? Yung Lysol, Solbac, basta may phenol content, isa din yun sa mga disinfectant na ginagamit. Now, the Lysol or the phenolics are good or potent disinfectants kasi yung action nila direct na sa parts nung cell ng organism or microorganism that you want to dispose of, no? So, direct na sa membrane yung action niya, membrane ng bacteria and fungi. And aside from this, yung phenolics, quacks, your iodophores, and chlorine base, pwede rin yung ibang acids, alkali, and alcohol as a disinfectant, but more common no, and more potent yung mga in-enumerate natin ngayon. Now, moving forward to the use and care of your microscope. Now, in histopath section, ito yung talagang kapartner natin, no? Especially of the pathologist kasi they will be, they're the one who will diagnose, they will check the structures, architectural patterns, and then correlate it to the patient's illness, no? They will correlate if the illness or signs and symptoms that they are experiencing are related to the cells being seen on the organ or yung mga tissue preparation natin. So take note, yung magda-diagnose, mag-check ng mga architectural pattern na yon ay pathologist. How about the CMLS or the Clinical Medical Laboratory Scientist? Pag nilagay po natin yan sa histopath section, they undergo different training, seminars, and workshops. No? Kapag na-specialize niya na yung histopath section, we can call them as your histotechnologist. So ano ba yung usual ginagawa ng histotechnologist? So from preparation, magle-label, fix, no, clearing, up to giving the output na tissue placed on the slide, yung babasahin na lang ng pathologist, histotechnologist yon. And even if the histotechnologist will not diagnose, hindi sila yung pinakatitingin ng mga structures, no? Hindi sila yung magko-correlate ng structures, patterns sa illness. The histotechnologists play a very important role because without us, no, without mga histotechnologists, walang babasahin yung pathologist. Or meron yung babasahin pero kung hindi ka accurate or effective as a histotechnologist, mali-mali yung pwedeng ma-interpret ng pathologist, no? Kasi konting uka lang sa cell or mali or dried dun sa parts na ginawa ng histotech, pwedeng mamali yung interpretation ng pathologist. That is why the histotech will not just prepare, but they will also quality check every slide before reading ng pathologist. So speaking of that, no, very familiar naman tayo that the functions of the microscope is to magnify, palakihin yung mga microscopic. Pero hindi lang enough na pinalaki natin. Dapat yung makikita din natin under the microscope very detailed so that we can also see exactly what the structure looks like, no? So it should be visible, magnified, and detailed. Now, what are the kinds of the microscope that we can encounter in the laboratory? Ito yung pinaka may encounter natin, no? The compound microscope, which is also called as the bright field. So we have here the bright field microscope, wherein it has a characteristic light background. Then yung dark, yung pinaka-sample, no? Light background, dark yung sample. So the following are the parts. So I will not dwell more on that, no? So I know for sure well enough, no? Dapat ngayon kabisado na. And the usual parts that you will expose to, especially if you're going to clean, if you're going to transport the microscope, so tatandaan yung mga base, no, yung arm, dapat nakahawak yung isang kamay sa arm, yung isa sa base. Yung stage, it should be away from you, no? It should be looking away from you pag tinatransport. You have your stages and then yung coarse fine adjustment knobs natin. Now, I would just like you to remember that when you're adjusting your knobs, hindi po yan basta-bastang ginagalaw. Meron ka partner yan na objective lenses na dun mo lang siya pwedeng galawin. Example, if you are in the lower objective lenses, sa scanner, low power objective, coarse adjustment knob yung ginagalaw natin. Pagka naman fine adjustment knob, kaya siya fine, very minimal na yung increments ng pagtaas or pagbaba, doon na yan sa higher objectives. Otherwise, kapag napag-interchange mo, you will not focus properly and urgently, or worse, pwede mong mabasag yung pinaka-slide mo. So always remember coarse adjustment knobs para dun sa mga matataas yung increments, no? Malayo pa, lower objectives, scanner, LPO, then fine adjustment knob naman para sa higher objectives, no? Like the high power and the oil immersion objective. Now, the objective lenses have different magnifications. Now, always take note that the total magnification is a combination of the scanning or the objective lenses magnification multiplied dun sa magnification ng eyepiece. Now, hindi laging 10 times ang magnification ng eyepiece. So, you always check yung oculars. Nakalagay naman dun kung 10, 15, yung iba 5 lang. So later on, as we do quizzes, you always listen, no, to the given. Kasi baka mamaya hindi naman pala 10 yung magnification ng eyepiece, bigay mo 40, no? Kapag tinanong ko yung total magnification of the scanning objective if the eyepiece is ganito. So Again, the eyepiece hindi po yan standard na 10 times. Pero, yung scanner, yung LPO, kapag yellow yung band, LPO, pagka blue yung band, HPO, no? Yan, standard yan. Pag scanner, 4 times, low power is 10, high power is 40, and then wala yung sa oil immersion, but it's usually silver, no? 100 times. If I'm going to ask for the total magnification, you're going to multiply it to the magnification of the eyepiece. Now, generally, yung mga compound microscopes natin, the light is either passed through or reflected off a specimen. But always take note that the background is the one that is light, tapos yung dark naman natin, yung pinaka-sample. As compared to a dark field illumination, kaya siya dark, no, yung background. Ito yung example, no, background dito yung dark, while yung light yung pinaka-sample. Now, don't confuse this to a fluorescent microscope or fluorescence microscope. Ito, nagpo-fluoresce or umiilaw lang siya on its own. Di tayo gumamit dito ng mga reagents para mag-fluoresce siya, para umilaw siya. No. Kaya lang siya talaga umiilaw kasi when the light hit or touches the organism or the sample in place, naturally umiilaw kasi yung background niya is dark. It is very useful in demonstrating the following organism. So you just take note of it. Basta ang importante dito, no, we have a dark background while yung light yung ating organism or the sample. Now, how about a phase contrast microscope? Now, the key here is refraction, no? Depends on the refraction of the sample. Usually, pag ang gagamitin nyo yung mga bright field microscope, it will appear as just transparent or colorless. But in a phase contrast microscope, makikita natin yung pinaka-depth ng contrast. If yung refraction ay mas mataas, the higher refraction is, mas darker yung parts of the sample, no? So, just one refraction sa phase contrast, ito yung magiging itsura as compared to what you will see in a bright field microscope. Pag bright field, ito lang siya, no? You can see some of the structures, but the others, you will not unless you will use a phase contrast. Kasi we will take a look at the refraction. Again, the higher the refraction is, mas dark po yung makikita nating mga kulay. Now, this phase contrast microscope is useful in determining the diagnosis of tumor cells. Pwede din siya sa growth and behavior of living cells. So here, what's different is that usually the samples that we are viewing live pa, no? Hindi pa siya yung fixed na dun sa pinaka-slide. Kasi again, we're going to observe the natural growth or the movement, the behavior of the different cells that we want to see. Now, take note, ito refraction, no? Refraction, one refraction lang siya. But there are substances or samples na iba't iba yung refraction, masyadong magulo. Even if you place it in a phase contrast microscope, hindi mo pa ma-distinguish ng maayos. So you will use a different type of microscope. Kailangan polarizing. So if there are different refractions, it's up to the polarized microscope to at least compromise, no? Para magkaroon ng isang magandang characteristic. Kapag kalat-kalat yung refraction, sabog din yung makikita natin. So sa polarized microscope, meron kasing dalawang essential components that can contain or compromise yung pagka magulo ng maraming refractions, no? Dito naman ang ginagamit nating principle is the birefringence. When you say birefringence kasi, it usually creates a colorful pattern despite of just giving you different unorganized lights because of the different refractions. So, yung two essential components natin, we have the polarizer. Polarizer natin nandito, nasa ilalim. Ang movement ng polarizer natin east to west. So, from right to left. Pwede ring mag-rotate yan ng 360 degrees. So, titimplahin, no, depending on which movement will align with the refraction or the birefringence of your sample. And then, ang katulong niyan, yung analyzer sa taas, no? The analyzer here, just below the eyepiece or the ocular. If the polarizer moves from east to west, the analyzer moves from north to south. So, up and down naman yung movement ng analyzer. So, what does it look like and what is the application ng polarized microscopy? If you're already done with AUBF, no? Meron kasing ibang crystals na very birefringent. Pag tinignan mo lang yan sa bright field microscope or phase contrast microscope, hindi mo sila ma-differentiate very well. Pag nilagay mo sa polarizing microscope, ay yung kanyang refraction pala na magulo, pwede pala yang malimit into colors, no? Yung different rays of colors nila na limit into just two. Example, ito. Merong nagkukos ng pseudo-gout, no? Yung crystals na yan, we have your CPPD as compared to the gout talaga na kinukos ng monosodium urate or the MSU crystals. Now, if you're going to take a look at that under the bright field microscope, medyo similar sila ng itsura. Yung iba pwedeng magbigay din ng lemon shape or yung iba patusok din yung shape. Pero pag tinignan mo under the polarizing microscope, hindi pala siya the same. Under the polarizing microscope, if that is really gout that is caused by uric acid, dapat yellow. No, yellow yung nagiging kulay. Kapag blue, no, yung kulay naman CPPD or the one that is causing pseudo-gout. So yan yung applications. Ay, di ko na siya na-animate. But then again, your fluorescence microscope, ang gist nito, no, the difference of your fluorescence microscope as compared to a dark field. Again, pareho tong dark background. Pero sa dark field microscope, wala tayong nilagay na fluorescence reagent, no, any reagent with that. Talagang yung tumama lang na light, no, naging lighter yung kulay ng organism or the sample, dark field. But this time, sa fluorescence microscopy, kahit tumama pa yung light tapos walang fluorescence reagent na nilagay, di yan magpo-fluoresce. No? Kasi ang positive reaction natin dito is the fluorescence of the organism. If it will not fluoresce, ibig sabihin, it's not present or it is not an acid-fast bacilli as compared or as depicted here in the picture. Kasi kakapit lang yung fluorescence reagent mo dun sa organism na gusto mong makita. So example, yung organism na nilagyan mo ng reagent, hindi naman siya kinakapitan ng fluorescence reagent na yon. Pwedeng nandyan pa rin yan sa slide pero hindi mo na siya nakikita kasi hindi siya iilaw. Kahit tamaan pa siya ng ilaw, hindi siya magfo-fluoresce. As compared to the organism, nakakapitan talaga para sa kanya yung stain na yon, no? Pag para sa kanya yung stain na yon, magfo-fluoresce siya pag tinamaan siya ng ilaw. Example, if we're going to use it in the context of acid-fast bacilli, no? Acid-fast bacilli, meron tayong fluorescence microscopy technique na ginagawa, yung Oramin, Raudamin, no? Na kapag ka nandyan yung, let's just say, Mycobacterium tuberculosis, Pag nandyan yan, nilagyan mo ng stain, nilagyan mo ng acridine orange, yung rhodamine B mo, no? Tinapos mo yung procedure at nilagay mo under the microscope. Magpo-fluoresce yan dapat. Paano kung hindi acid-fast yung nilagay mo? Example, Staphylococcus aureus. Meron talaga siya dun sa smear, in-stain mo talaga siya. Since hindi siya acid-fast, hindi niya ite-take up yung fluorescence or the reagent for it to fluoresce. It may be present on the slide, tamaan man siya ng ilaw, pero hindi po siya magpo-fluoresce like this. Ang magpo-fluoresce lang yung acid-fast organism. Okay, am I clear on that point? Can you give me a heart reaction before I proceed? Okay, thank you. So moving forward to the electron microscopes, meron tayong dalawa, no? We have your transmission tsaka scanning electron microscope. Wherein these are detecting organisms na mas malaki yung magnification, no? Important to if you want to see certain morphology pa on a deeper level and its composition. So doon na tayo talaga sa mga parts nila like the mitochondria, kung gusto mo pang makita yung nucleoid ng bacteria, no? Electron microscope na yon. And the first part we have here, the transmission electron microscope. Pag transmission or the TEM, ito yung sinasabi na parang binibigyan ka na ng 3D, no? 3D na appearance of the, 2D image, no? 2D image of the up to 3D, no? I think in other references, 2D up to 3D appearances of the organism or the cell mismo. Na pati mga Golgi apparatus, makikita natin. Parang ito may compartments na siya, no? May mga Golgi apparatus na, makikita mo dyan yung mga ribosomes, etc., no? So, yung magnification kasi nito from 10,000 up to 100,000 times. Ganun na siya lalim. As compared kanina, di ba, kahit yung pinakasagad na natin na objective, which is OIO, hindi naman niya naaabot ng ganitong magnification. So if you want to take a look up to the deeper aspect na ganun, no, you have your TEM. As for the SEM naman, you have here your scanning electron microscope. Ito, more on sa pinaka-morphology niya, surface, no? Akong ginagawa kong keyword dito, SEM, yung S, iniisip ko na lang surface, no? Para mas matandaan. So, S or the surface. Kasi more likely, ang makikita mo dyan, yung katulad nito, yung mga Vibrio cholerae, Treponema pallidum, kitang-kita mo yung morphology na spiral siya, yung isa medyo kidney bean shape, tapos merong flagella, no? If you're going to take a look at the surface of a chromosome, tsaka ng mga difference ng chromosome sa chromatin, pwede rin magamit ng SEM. But then again, yung mga internal parts niya, hindi pa siya maaabot. Ang gagamitin mo talaga doon, yung TEM or the transmission electron microscope. So that's it for our topic today. If you have questions or clarifications, you can type them in the chat box now. And then hopefully, no, next meeting, magkita-kita na tayo face-to-face. Hopefully, wala na ring mga suspensions. But for now, this will be the usual flow of our meetings for prelim. Kasi sa laboratory ng histopath, no, hindi pa tayo magsa-start ng slicing, yung fixing, no, by midterms pa po yun. But then again, all should be sana, no, face-to-face. But don't worry, pagka may mga ganyan na inclement weather, isa na rin ako sa nakaantabay kasi syempre, babiyahe pa kayo, di ba? And hindi ko din ginawang 7 a.m. kasi yung mga discussions naman natin are just brief. Siguro 1 to 2 hours max pwede na. So for prelims sa laboratory, we can start at 8 a.m. sa MT Lab 3. Now, should we resume ng face-to-face classes next week? Pakisunod po yung quiz topics natin ha. So of course, natapos na tong topics 1 and 2. May quiz muna tayo before the discussion next week. And pen and paper tayo, dictation type. So I think 10 items each tayo, 10 items for the first topic and then the second topic. Any quiz type will do po. Okay? Now, before you leave, let me just take the attendance. I'll pull up your Canvas lang for a while. Again, for the quiz natin, pen and paper po tayo for the laboratory. For the lecture, baka po sa Canvas tayo magsasagot, no? So I have a question here regarding quizzes. For laboratory, pen and paper. For lecture, yung ibang announcements, mamaya po ha sa lecture class natin. So, once I call your surname, can you just raise your hand? If wala na pong question, you can leave the Zoom meeting room. Now, I will see you again later at your lecture time. Same Zoom meeting room po tayo, no? Okay. So, Almadine Alonzo, Antonio John, and Antonio Luis. Alonzo, last call, wala. So, Antonio, okay. Thank you. You may leave now. Atabay, Baldos, and Bolyas. Atabay and Baldos. Last call, wala. Brobo, Bundok, Kalalang, Kalalo, Kamado. Okay, thank you. You may leave now. Camino, Kapanang, Carranza, Mombasa, and Constantino. Camino, Kapanang, Carranza, Combasa, and Constantino. Okay, thank you. Coraza, Cruz Angel, Cruz Renmar, De Guzman, and Jesus. Cruz Angel, last call. Wala. De Guzman, Bea, wala. Okay. Thank you, De Leon, De la Cruz, D. Espelita, and Fernandez. De la Cruz Princess, last call. Okay, thank you. Galang, Galos, Hongko, Lakar. Okay, Baldos noted. Galos, wala. Okay, thank you. Lambohon. Okay, next time you raise your hand, so I can see. Lambohon, Langgita, Lumagsaw, Mamaril. Okay, thank you. Next, we have Mangginaw, Manuel, Mascareñas, Pascual, Paulite, and then Perez. Mascarinas wala. Thank you. Resultay. Reyes Sabeniano Salonga. Okay, thank you sa Maniego, San Miguel, Sorriso, and Tipay.